We were poor. Actually, the poor people called us poor. So we were getting the hampers at Christmas time. Like, that was just in the early 30s, during the worst depression, and there was no jobs or no work. And like, we were always very happy, because it didn't take much to make us happy. My mom made a football out of rags and had secondhand skates, and we'd skate when the ditches froze over. And back in those days, it was a sin to go to the arena, but I found out afterwards that anything that we couldn't afford was a sin. And so that made good logic for my parents, I guess. I don't think they even realized they were doing that. I told my younger brother that someday I'm going to build tractors and build farm machinery. And I was a kid, but yes, I always had this desire to build farm machinery. It never left me. And I always kept a model tractor on my desk or a model combine. And that way it never leaves your mind. And the other thing I did is I told lots of people what I'm going to do. And of course I got laughed at, because, we had nothing. 12th year at school, I was still in grade 9, and I was dreaming. So I think a lot of people would have thought there's a loser if you ever saw one.
While John Buhler may not have excelled in school, he had skills that helped him become very successful in business.
My dad was a salesman from the word go. So when he was in the car business, he was delivering a car from Manitoba to Saskatchewan with dealer plates. You can't do that. And he got pulled over by the RCMP. And long story short, he ended up selling the police officer a car. And we don't know for sure whether he got the ticket or not, but just a salesman, an entrepreneur from the early years, even before he started to make money.
By building his business and acquiring new ones, he was able to achieve a lifelong dream.
It was the most exciting moment in my life. Short-lived, because 6 weeks after we bought the factory and moved in, the union went on strike for 9.5 months. And so we kind of had to start all over again. Even after that, we made several acquisitions, and over the years I bought probably 20 or 25 companies. I would amalgamate, and so eventually we amalgamated all the companies and formed Buhler Industries, Inc.
I was an employee very early on. I would say it was probably 8 or 9, and we had bought a horse farm just north of town, and we were digging a well. And I was the only one small enough to get into the well, to get the last little bit of dirt out. And so, being the obedient employee and son that I was, they tied a rope around my waist, lowered me in with a pail and a shovel, and said, dig until you hit water, and we'll catch you, we'll pull you up if it gets too deep. For that I got paid $1, I think, so I was, you decide whether it was worth it or not. My dad is the only guy that I know who had to fire his mom because she turned 90 and they wouldn't let her on the stepladder to clean the curtains anymore in the offices. So he's got that recognition behind his name too. That's not very public, but my grandma did not want to quit.
In 2007, John sold Buhler Industries for $195 million. Despite the hefty payout, this was a tough time for John.
Oh, I was surrounded by all these smart people, and then there I was left alone, and it took me 1.5 years to get over that. And I woke up one morning saying, hey, this is dumb. You got $100 million cash in the bank, and you're depressed. Like, nobody with that much money should be depressed. And it was like an overnight conversion, and I was a changed person overnight. Here's a guy who couldn't pass grade 9 with $195 million to look after. It wasn't all mine, because there were some other shareholders, but a good majority of it is mine. And so then Bonnie and I just very aggressively started going after philanthropy projects, and it's not difficult to find them.
John and Bonnie initially made a commitment to invest $50 million into the community, which later rose to $100 million. However, that was not their first foray into philanthropy that started 25 years earlier.
We had a daughter that had endometriosis, and we kept taking her to the hospital every month, once a month, regular like clockwork, and there was nothing they can do, and it's a simple surgery. And finally one doctor says, well, why don't you take her to the Mayo Clinic? They did overnight surgery. You stayed there one night, drove home, and she was cured still. And that was 25, 30 years ago. Then I said to the doctor, it doesn't make any sense. Why can't they do that laparoscopic surgery, which means they don't need to make an incision? He said, well, we don't have the equipment. And I said, well, I'll buy the equipment. And it's a laser. And I got about 5 lasers, maybe 10 lasers in the factory, but the problem is with our lasers, they'd blow a hole like that in the stomach. And so I phoned the factory, I phoned the manufacturer of the laser that we use in our machine, and I said, do you also make hospital lasers? Yes, we do. And I said, I want to donate one to the hospital, and I want the best deal I can get. And they said, hey, we got one on display here that we had for a year, and we'll give you a deal on that. And we bought it for almost half price.
John and Bonnie were early supporters of another major community project.
We had announced the idea of the museum in April of '03. We'd launched the campaign that summer, and my dad dropped dead in October of '03. We'd changed the prime ministers. Our champion, Jean Chrétien, was out, and we knew that the private sector role in the museum was going to be pivotal. When John Buhler stepped up with a gift to the campaign, not of $10,000, not of $100,000, not even of $1 million, but with $6 million, a huge amount of money. And when he looked at us and said, I believe in you, I want this project to happen, and I'm going to do what it takes to help you make it happen, it changed everything. And I think the number one thing people will remember John for is his huge heart and his huge generosity and his belief in that in this world, you don't just want to take up space, you want to leave it a better way than the way you found it. And he's doing that magnificently and regularly and generously through his legendary philanthropy.
Dad, I think I can say that all of us kids are extremely proud of this achievement. We've stopped clipping the newspaper articles and the pictures a long time ago already, but we know that this is a special one for you, and we're just extraordinarily happy for you and Bonnie, and nothing but proud of you today.